if you go look at like all the January 6th stuff, for instance, I'm like, yeah, like there's nothing to argue. But I look at all of that and go, if you could show me that Trump was legitimately lying, that he knew that the election that he had lost fair and square, and he was still doing these things, does that completely discredit him? And so, yes, at that point, I would say if you had a mind reading device and you knew that, that would completely change my take on it, because I walk away from watching or hearing the calls of him literally on your stream, him doing the calls and everything. I walk away going, I think he actually believed it. Now, whether he's a fool or not to believe it is a totally different question. Whether he's completely delusional is a totally different question. But if you could show me into his heart, no, he for real is lying. Okay, cool. That changes my perspective. Now I would want you to point said mind reading device at all the fears that I have over on the left, because I want to know what's going on in their hearts as well. But I have a very definable thing that would allow me to change my mind. But I don't think for a second that you're WWEing any of this either. I think you really believe it's obvious that he's lying. How could anybody believe anything differently? So my thing is, given that the only heart I can see inside is my own, and I know that I'm not making it up, and I know that, and it'll be easy because I'm sure you'll push me on a lot of this stuff and you'll see which ways I'll break and go one way or the other. But I feel that good faith people of a certain level of intellect can look at that and walk away with different views, and I want them to. And when I look at putting hardcore controls in to make sure that we account for disinformation, that you make the world worse. Like, I'm way more terrified of that than I am it being more difficult for the public to think through what is true than I am the world where we're being told what is true.
Gotcha. I think that the thought process that you have right now in terms of people being able to reasonably disagree on that, I think is the end of this country probably. It's probably why I might be looking to leave after this election cycle. Because I think that people just, yes, it's just so beyond the pale that we can have reasonable disagreements over whether or not the last president tried to lead a rebellion against the government to entrench himself in power. I don't know how we can have people that disagree on that and still function. Because who's to say the next deal isn't I need to murder political opponents, which he now has criminal immunity to do, or that I need to silence the media because, as he said multiple times, the media is the enemy of the people. Or if he comes into office and he does suspend the Constitution, as he said multiple times he would like to do, and he is a dictator on day one, which he's told Sean Hannity that he wants to be, right? Then at that point, like, I have nothing I can say because we don't misalign on values. It's just we've just seen, I don't think we've even seen the same set of facts. Because like even, or you can respond to that if you want, yeah.
So I have a theory that the way that people should be approaching this is to just completely rule out preemptive strikes. So the thing that worries me, because here's what my hope would be. Like if Kamala Harris wins, and shout out to David Pakman, he's the first person that I heard say it in the opposite direction. He said, look, if Trump wins, I'm not going to spend any time talking about the election was stolen. I'm just going to be like, cool, how do we make sure that only policies get put in place that are actually good for the American people? And I'm like, yeah, if I end up, if Trump doesn't get elected and Kamala Harris does, I'm not going to spend any time saying, oh, the election was stolen. It's like, word, man. I actually hope, whatever direction, it's a landslide. And so now, even though, like, let's say, in fact, let's make it way harder. If you point the mind reading device at Trump and I realize, oh my God, he was actually lying. That was a legitimate attempted coup, and he is going to do everything he can to take over the government and make sure that a Republican is in there forever, then immediately I'm 1,000% opposed to that. Bad, not good. But at that point, that's where I go into, I don't do preemptive strikes. I want to see how this plays out, but I would for sure, I'm now in Second Amendment territory. I'm now in the, I am hunkering down, preparing for the worst, looking at getting out of a major city, but because I don't know that I'm right, I don't know that that's going to go in a horrible direction. I want to wait and see. But would you wait and see before you left the country, or would you be like, bro,
I'm just the overall investment in whatever project we have now just collapses immediately. I'm just
what project? I don't understand.
The American project, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. I think that it's. The problem is it's just there are just so many. It's just a wide collection of facts, I guess.
But where would you go?
I don't know. Someplace in I either just hunker down in some no income tax place in the US and just say screw it, or I'd go to Canada or fucking Mexico or the fuck knows, I don't know.
Okay, so you are somebody who I think is extraordinarily good at, all right, what are the facts on the ground? Being very dispassionate, just looking at things very objectively. That feels emotional. It feels like you so believe and so love in this country that there's something in there that would break your heart. And it is a response to having your heart broken. Is that a misread, or does that feel accurate?
I mean, it's partially true, but I mean, like, heartbroken over like imagine you're a 1/3 owner, I guess, in a business, and the 2/3 other guys decide that you're not going to make cars anymore. You're going to make anime dolls. And you're like, fuck, buy me out. I'm leaving. Right. So I guess in that sense, yeah, because it would just mean that the direction and what this country stands for, what it means internationally for the United States, is just like everything is like changed fundamentally so much that I don't even know if I identify strongly with it anymore.
Doesn't it feel like in this moment, that's where we're at? But like, I can only imagine in the middle of the Civil War, that had to be pretty gnarly. Like the fact that, to put myself on the good guy side, the fact that half the country wants to keep slaves, that's bananas. And I can't believe that I live in this world.
I would have to look at the media environment back then, because I probably think that media environment, it's possible that it would have been better, because at least those people.
So this is really about the media environment.
But because those people, my guess is, and I'm not an expert on this, my guess is those people knew what they were fighting over, right? Mm-hmm. One side thought they had the right to maintain slaves, the other side didn't. But right now, what are we fighting over? Whether or not Hugo Chavez came back from the dead and created a Dominion voting systems you laugh at this, but the guy that you're voting for believes everything that I'm saying, or purports to. He doesn't actually, but he tells his fans that constantly, and he lies about it even to this day, right? Or that, from the top down, there was this grand conspiracy to steal the election from Donald Trump, or that the 50 million other crazy, wild, ridiculous things he said, like we don't even know like why we disagree with each other now. Like, is FEMA stealing homes from people because it's giving out money and then they disguised it as a loan, or is there 50 million illegal immigrants that are coming in because Kamala Harris is, personally unlocking the tunnels to let them in to destroy their, like, we don't even know what we're fighting at anymore. And conservatives have gotten so good at controlling the whole media environment, even in media places they don't control directly, that they've like memory hold so many things. It's just like, it's unbelievable to me, I guess. I don't know.
Why do you attribute that to one side?
Because they do it way worse than the other side. It's not even remote. You will never.
But don't you think it's the architecture of the human mind?
You will never, ever, ever, ever be able to give me an example of a mainstream media organization in the United States behaving like Fox News did over the Dominion stuff. You just no equivalent. That in and of itself should have been the destruction of that political party. For people that don't know, Fox News, all of the execs and all of the hosts knew that all the Dominion claims were lies from the very start, and they continued to push the lie because they knew they were losing viewership to OAN and Newsmax. None of this is debated. None of this is controversial. All of this is public after the depositions. There's a reason why Fox News settled that suit for the largest settlement in all of corporate defamation history for some $787 million. So every single person, and I would guess if I had to estimate, 80% plus Republicans to this day believe something that Fox News was knowingly lying about that came from Trump's campaign. That's just unbelievable to me.
Okay. So what you take away from that is that the media landscape is so corrupt, and the way that the human mind works is so, it's so easy to bamboozle it, that if we can't get tight constraints around what can and can't be said from media, we will never be able to have the informed public that we need to get back to the America that you can resonate with and be a part of.
Sure. And I'm not even saying like tight constraints. It just, there has to be some way to make it so that you cannot lie with impunity. It can't be it like every single day. If somebody gets something wrong, that's different. Or somebody has a different, subjective political belief. Like, I don't think Trump being mean to people is a big deal. Or I think that Kamala's race or whatever is a big deal. These are fine. These are differences of opinion or whatever. It's fine. But it can't just be that somebody can lie with impunity every single day as a pattern and be fine. We can't survive. We're not surviving right now. The country is like not doing well right now. Internationally, we're a mess. Domestically, we're about to tear ourselves apart in this upcoming election. It's just, we can't agree on what aid looks like. We literally had a bill, fuck, there are so many individual, We like here's the thing, and I tell this to every single conservative, that illegal immigration isn't a problem at all in this country. In fact, it's not even close to being a problem, and nobody actually cares about it. And the reason why is because they'll say it was the number one issue to them. It was one of the most important things, is figuring out like all of the asylum people. When a bill was in front of Congress to fix it, okay, Senate and the House were ready to sign it. Biden was ready to sign it into law. Donald Trump pulled the plug on it. He told conservatives, he said, don't sign this bill. We need to keep the border open for the election. None of this is private. None of this is secret. All of this is public. McConnell talked about it. Cruz talked about it. Langford, the original bill author in the Senate, talked about it. And that bill got shot down with nothing. There was no negotiating. There was no nothing. Why? I thought it was a huge problem for politics, right? So, yeah, I don't even know. We don't live in the same world. Nobody in this country on the left or right is two totally different realities.